you. Thank you. Thanks for the reminder, Byron. And we're going to show this with all the registrants along with the deck that we're going to use today. So you'll get this information, and also know that throughout the year, Kathy and I are your resources as national charities, international charities, on how the CFC works. Any questions you have about marketing in the CFC, we're here to help you do that, because there are 36 different zones, but a lot of those zones and those zone managers will be specifically focused on their local charities and not always understanding the complexity for national charities and how they engage the CFC, federal employees, the event system, can be unique to national charities. That's what Kathy and I are here for. So we're going to start the training with that in mind, but I would like everybody to put in the chat where you're calling in from and your CFC experience. And the reason I want that is because so often in these trainings, and I know this isn't unique to just CFC trainings, but you might not appreciate that so many of the people on this call, this is their first year, might be their second year. There might be some folks that have, maybe more than 5 years, but very seldom is there a charity that I engage with over the past 32 years that have been in longer than 5 years, national charities especially. And the reason I think that's important is I want everybody to understand. So somebody's been in, well, there's somebody with 35 years, and I guess I just found that outlier. Who was in here for 30? Lisa Rollins, 35 years. That's wonderful. So many folks are like Nagazi, that it is their first year and they're new to the process. So don't hesitate to ask questions. And understand that there are both new people and new parts of the process that may not make sense. And a lot of the training goes on in the chat. So as the questions are answered or asked in the chat, please use the chat, and Kathy will stop and give you answers, or she will be able to stop me and say, Mike, there's a question that I think everybody needs to hear your answer to, and then we'll take it from there. So again, thank you all very much for joining us. Let's get started. We will have, like I said, the training in this deck will be shared with you probably tomorrow, once we get the training rendered and posted to YouTube. So the first thing I want to acknowledge is, the CFC thanks you. The CFC needs you. Over the past 62 years, the CFC has raised $8.6 billion. And nobody's ever died from the CFC. The CFC is made up of the charities that provide wonderful work in communities around the country and around the world. And your message, your programs, your engagement with the federal community is paramount importance to the success of this campaign. That's why these CFC events and the CFC event system are so important. I was out in Pensacola, Florida last week, training at NES Pensacola, Eglin Air Force Base. Next week, I'll be at Wright-Patt Air Force Base, training those folks. And one of the things that these are, DOD employees, the one thing that they will tell you is, I don't know how to ask people for money. And I'm like, I know. That's why you want to have an event and invite a charity, because these are professional fundraisers. It's their job to get people passionate about giving. Sure, they're going to promote their individual cause, and we're going to talk a little bit about promoting the cause, but also promote the CFC. But your engagement with the campaign, what you've done, the people that and the charities that have been in the campaign over the past 62 years are the reason for its success. And we just want to thank you and acknowledge that your role is critical to what we do at the Combined Federal Campaign. We're going to talk a little bit about how the CFC works, the theme and materials. Kath's going to go over CFC events and then marketing to the federal community. We're going to try to keep this to a real tight 45 minutes. I said that on the charity training this morning, and I think it went to an hour and 10 minutes. But the last 10 minutes or so, people were just sitting around asking different questions. And so we will be available to stay on afterwards. We would like you to raise your hand at any time, and we will, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Don't hesitate to do that. But for now, if everybody, mutes himself, and then we will answer questions in the chat, and then have everybody go through the process of learning about the campaign, and then asking questions. Kind of I'll take break between those 4 sections. So how the CFC works: national charities apply and go through a pretty rigorous 6-month review done by federal volunteers, making sure that your organization meets the federal standard for participation in the CFC. 5,113 local, national, and international charities were approved. And this is not like some private sector workplace campaign that says, here, if you want to choose a charity, go to GuideStar. Here's 1.6 million charities to search through. It's not what this is. The CFC has only a select number of charities, and it's one of the selling points that the campaign highlights to the donors, that when you go to donate, I'm at the Give CFC site, and you click on donate and go to find a charity. This is where they start their account at CFC Giving. But then when you find a charity, this is where the organizations are listed. And again, there's only 5,113. And there's a very powerful search engine here. So if you are listed in and from Illinois, and want to see what kind of animal organizations. These are the animal organizations in Illinois. Or if you want to find out all animal organizations or dog organizations, or breast cancer across the country. These are the organizations, 56 results. So this is the search engine. Every organization here should go on and look at your profile and what you've submitted. And I'm just pulling up Sisters Network because that's what my search was. And make sure that you have, if volunteers are welcome, if what your category of services are. We're going to talk about that a little bit, that this is your most up-to-date logo. And you have to apply to participate and be included on this list. This means that you get to engage the federal community. You'll engage the federal community via the giving site. You'll engage the federal community via your own social media or communication, or the people that have donated to your organization over the last 5 years. Downloading those names and thanking them this month is critical. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then federal employees get to support you, provide year-round pledges. These are 95% of these are payroll deduction pledges. Average gift in the campaign is about $700 because of the power of payroll deduction. I can give $20 a month and give $600, or $50 a month to give $600, much easier than I can write a check for $600. And that's the benefit of payroll deduction. Those gifts allow participating charities to make a difference year round. So you reach millions of potential federal donors through the campaign. Federal retirees also just today got their announcement from OPM to give through the CFC, and federal retirees obviously built that 62 years of giving and $8.6 billion in pledges, and they get to give to the CFC. In fact, they are the largest growing sector of the campaign. In some zones, it's the number 2 account, raising $70, $80, $90,000 a year from retirees. You're able to track your pledges through your account at cfccharities.opm.gov. So a primary homework assignment for everybody here is to make sure that you stop by your account at CFC Charities and that you've logged in and you know everything that is there, including all your applications, all your pledges, all the donors that released their names, all the distributions over the past 7 years. If you want to learn about what that looks like, go back to the Give CFC website. And right down here at the bottom is a video on charity updates, and watching this video on, and Kath, I'm going to put the link in the.
I put a couple links in there just now.
And this video is how you find your best friend in the CFC is your account at CFC Charities. One of the things I know about CFC responsibilities for charities is that your organization will have and may have, this is one of the reports that is so important. This is where you get the, I just dragged to it, but this is where you get the information from. Each individual gift made to you is reported. Now, only some donors report their names, but each individual gift. So if you do an event, let's say you're in North Texas and you did an event at the AFES headquarters in Dallas, and all of a sudden you see, hey, in January, I got 5 different gifts. It made a real difference that I went to that event at AFES in Dallas on the 3rd of January, because you can see these reports in that site. So we go over that in detail when Kathy and I start talking about the application process. And we'll go over this, in December when we meet with you guys again, talking about the 2023 campaign. But for this year's campaign, the most important thing to do this month, go to this site, download all the donor names that you have accumulated over the past 5 years since 2017. Send emails to those folks, letting them know the campaign is kicked off. You're in the campaign. This is your CFC number. Thank you for supporting us. And please consider giving to us again in the 2022 CFC.
Lauren's asking if you can see the current pledges for this year. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about what's out there and why they're some of the things.
Yes. Yeah, you can see the current pledges for this year. Now, you can't act on those pledges because any of those pledges between now and the end of the campaign season are changeable. So somebody can make a pledged payroll deduction today, $550 a month, and make it to your organization, but they can change it between now and January 15th. But you can see those pledges. If you go in right now and look at your pledges compared to last year, you'll probably see, in fact, it came up on the national training, the campaign is off to a slower start than it was last year. That doesn't mean the campaign is going to be down this year whatsoever. OPM's Inspector General decided that OPM's, and get as frustrated as you want because I couldn't be more frustrated, OPM's reminder email to the donors that gave last year was disallowed because of privacy issues. This Inspector General decided, and or the Office of the Inspector General, yeah, the OIG. And so that email didn't go out at the beginning of the campaign. Last year, that email went out and said, hey, you gave last year, consider giving again this year. So some folks, most of the folks, a lot of folks went in and made their gifts right away. Campaign got off to a big start. If I look back a couple years, this is typical for the campaign to be at about $2-3 million. I know the National Capital Area just had its first $1 million day yesterday. So it's not uncommon to have a slow start. The site opened on the 1st of September, remains open through January 14th. The battle rhythm of your pledges, when you get them, and the size of the campaign gifts throughout the months, it just continues to grow. September's not that big. October gets a little bigger. November gets big. December's the biggest month, except for the first 2 weeks in January, which is called Finish Strong. So yes, you can go on and look at those pledges, and they are recorded real time, not real time, at the end of each day, they're uploaded to your site. how to get the most out of your CFC participation? Well, the first thing that many charities find is participate in CFC events, but also, and we're going to talk about that, but also submitting stories, photos, videos, accepting volunteer hours as part of your profile, and promoting your participation in the combined federal campaign. Where you go to find out everything about these campaign opportunities is right here. So again, I'm at givecfc.org. Down at the bottom, there's that link to that short video. And there's also the link to your account at cfccharities.opm.gov. But are you a CFC charity? Click on that link. And this is the entire virtual charity participation information on how to upload videos, how to upload stories and photos, the charity engagement guide, what the video compliance is, encouraging volunteering, accepting CFC event invitations, which we're going to go through, promoting yourself. If you're going to go and be on a virtual event, you don't need the yard sign like I have here, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But you go here, you can download the CFC logo. You can download the theme for this year, Be the Face of Change. There are tremendously large amount of materials, as you start getting into the holidays. All this is included. The QR code to take people to the website, which is right here, is included. So don't hesitate to go explore these. It's kind of, I would say homework for the end of today after this training, the how to give card, what this looks like and what federal employees use to share among themselves, what the mobile app looks like. All these things are available. And then to track your campaign progress, we were just talking about that. The application stuff won't apply right now, but this is where you learn about how to get the most out of the combined federal campaign and the opportunities that you have and the CFC provides to you. So again, this is at givecfc.org. Take advantage of that information. And if you have any questions about it, or you have any questions about how you can utilize it, you can throw it in the chat right now, or give me or Kathy. Kathy, you want to put our emails in the chat so everybody can shoot us emails afterwards if they have any questions. So this year's theme is you can be the face of change. It was the same theme as we used last year. I just showed you that, but I think the theme concept is federal employees, change makers, and that's what we talk to our trainees. There's about 7,000 federal employees that are out right now soliciting their colleagues to consider giving to your charity through the CFC. These volunteers, we call them change makers, and they are the face of change. And so we highlight them individually. It's kind of what you see when you go back to the website, where we have these folks that have individual stories, and this is how we promote the campaign. Our training that we do individually is the CFC is one ask at a time, and one individual, one of your colleagues, ask one of your colleagues to consider giving every day during the campaign, and you're going to have a successful campaign. We know the number one reason why people don't give, because they weren't asked. The number one reason why people do give, because they were asked by somebody they trust. And so having colleagues solicit each other is a great way to have a successful campaign. It's a great way to increase morale. How many of these engagements can be face-to-face? Well, not as many as it used to be in 2019, but the number's growing. But I think the important thing to also realize is on these websites, or in this campaign, every campaign has a local website. And that local website, so I'm going to the Dallas-Fort Worth website right now, this is where we talk about and we engage with our local coordinators to talk about housing and shelter is the cause of the week. We talk about text to donate. Fun thing to do right now, text donate to 978-487-5678. I'll put that number here in the chat, 978-487. Make sure I get it right. 5678. No, this doesn't mean, folks, that you're going to give $10. There's another step, but you'll be able to see how federal employees can now donate easily to the campaign. And this text to donate is kind of the idea that federal employees got a little frustrated in 2017 when cash was not allowed in the campaign. And so texting to donate is something that has been very well received in the trainings I've been doing. Leadership messages. Here's the message from the Secretary of Defense promoting the campaign. And it's we have messages from the director of the VA. We have messages from the director of OPM. The Secretary of the Veterans Administration, Dennis McDonough, is the voluntary chair over the entire campaign. And this is where federal employees get information about how the campaign works, to get to look at the inspirational videos, get to see your charity fair videos all here. So everybody check out your local website, because it's going to have a lot of information that you'll want to engage with. But I think it's also important to see all the material. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are you sharing your screen with us to look at? I don't think I see your
I am, yeah, local
anymore.
website.
I see it, so I'm not sure.
Oh. Oh yeah, I
You want to
don't
refresh
see your
it?
screen anymore.
Sometimes that happens
else?
with Zoom. I would go down and click on your Zoom icon on your desktop, and it might pull it back up for you.
Okay, my apologies. I'll log out and log back in. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's all right. We're going to keep going, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to undo it. And if you have questions in the future, anybody, just raise your hand and we'll move you to the front and make a break for you to come in and ask a question. So log out, Shakayla, and then log back in and see if that works. So when I go out and I train these federal employees to do the solicitation, there is a tremendous amount of materials that are made available to them to do the ask. We go through they have a whole event planning guide that they have. Campaign worker training is what we do. These badges are used for social media. We have all the things that we showed you earlier, but we also have tremendous amount of posters. So we have a USPS poster. We have 7 or 8 civilian posters, every one of the DoD posters. So you can have a Army, Air Force, Marine Corps. These posters all promote each individual office, tell a story of, be the face of change. And these are then printed out and hung in the individual offices. There's a barometer poster that they use to promote their campaign progress, what their goal is, what their department, their agency is, and the progress that they make, in a QR code. So they can email this to their colleagues. They can hang this poster in their office. Their colleague can go through and shoot the QR code and give right there. So tremendous amount of material. And then there's a lot of marketing that goes on outside of just this campaign, event marketing, and also I pulled that one down. So hold on for 1 second. Not funny, Kath, the pictures that I had on here earlier today just disappeared on me. Oh, there they are. So let me just give you another example of what CFC marketing looks like a little bit. So this is at the Air Force Navy game this weekend, where we promoted the CFC and had a text to donate contest between the Navy cadets and the Air Force cadets. Go Falcons. Air Force One. We're going to do that again at the Air Force Army game in Arlington, and then the Army Navy game in West Point. The screen that you see, or the and then this screen behind me is put out in front of on DoD installations, reminding people it's CFC season, that they can give through the CFC. It's the QR code. There's the website. And that's how there are both digital, tremendous amount of digital, and hard physical promotional activities and promotional materials that are distributed year round, or sorry, campaign round during the October, November, December, and into January. So getting a sense of what the theme is important, but I think what's also important is understanding what it is that you have and these charities and these federal employees use to promote the campaign. The materials that I showed you are all there, but digitally, and we can have these printed too for federal employees. But I think probably the most impressive document to download from that list of all those documents is the Campaign Worker Toolkit. This toolkit is used by campaign workers to plan their campaign, and it has everything they need for a successful campaign. The campaign is organized by causes. Each week we have a new cause that we highlight. The benefit of this kind of organization is we're not just saying give to the CFC, give to the CFC each week. We're saying support food and nutrition through the CFC this week. So events that might be held that week will all be about food and nutrition the week of November 21st, heading into Thanksgiving. That makes sense. If you want to talk about military and veteran services, that's Veterans Day week. And so we highlight veterans organizations that week. And so the ask, because it's around causes, is not just giving through the CFC, but it's your organizations, the work that you do, and it's highlighted by the cause of the week. And then when you go down to each cause week, so you go to the education cause week, there's an email, there's social media content that these folks can download. And the social media content looks like this when they download it. So if you're at the VA in Dallas, Fort Worth, here's all the content you need to post to your VA Facebook page. And then that changes every week. So this is government approved messaging that goes out through these social media channels. It not only helps with the and emphasizes how much the campaigns is being supported, not only by the coordinator in your office, but by the agency that you work for, by the department you're a member of. There are splash screens, there's banners, there's articles that you can post, and then we repeat it again next week. All different materials, all different emails, and it goes through every week of the year. So the Campaign Worker Toolkit, again, you go to your local website, go under campaign materials, and you're able to see some pretty impressive, very impressive training, education, and promotional materials that we share with federal employees during the campaign season. I went through your online charity toolkit. The cause of the week calendar is here. Looking at through the cause of the toolkit is a good idea, but these are the, what is that, 14, 17 weeks that are covered by the cause of the week toolkit, or the cause of the week promotional strategy. And it's been something that we've had for the past, I think, 7 years for the campaign to use as a way to promote participating charities and the services they provide each week of the campaign. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy to go over CFC events and that new system. But I want to stop here, pause for a moment, stop the drinking from the fire hose feel that some of these trainings might have for your, especially for the first time that folks that got on to get into the CFC and one of these trainings, and see if there's any other questions. Anybody want to raise their hand and unmute themselves and ask a question? Remember, there's a lot of folks here that this is their first time doing these. Hey, Lauren, thanks. Please unmute yourself.
Hey,
Hey,
hi,
Lauren.
Kathy. Hi,
How
Mike.
are
It's great to see you again. Thank you
Great
for
Good
a
to see you.
great presentation. I do have a couple of questions here. Thanks for answering my other question in the chat. So I was able to log in and see the pledges that we've got for this year. Regarding recurring gifts per pay period, when are the pay periods? Is it bi-weekly or monthly? And also, when does that start? So if, like, let's say I go and pledge something to be taken out of my payroll, when does the organization start getting that money?
So answer your first question, which is when are the pay periods? It depends.
Okay.
Sometimes it's bi-weekly, sometimes it's twice a month. So that's 24 payments versus 26 payments.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it's monthly. So
Okay.
it varies. What you're going to get is a final report of pledges. The final pledge report will probably be in March of this year. In
Okay.
prior years, it's been a lot longer because there were many more paper pledge cards. We had that because people were in person, all the way up till 2020. You're going to get a report of participation and what final pledges are. And again, these are pledges that are going to take place over the entire 12-month period. It
Okay.
stops with the it starts with the first pay period, the first full complete pay period after January 14th, the close of the campaign, and will run through the last pay period into January 14th of 2024.
Yep.
It's all the way through 2023 and 2024. And then the first payment will commence, depending on what the pledge distribution, because that takes most of the first payment, in April or May of that year. So even though it comes out in January, or in some cases the first one is February,
Mm-hmm.
February, March, it takes about 60 days for this money to be allocated, accrued from the individual pay centers. And the good thing, I think, Lauren, is, and I think, Lauren, this is your first year, is that right, in the campaign?
Yes, that's correct.
So if you go on to and watch that video, you're going to be able to see that the payments will start in April or May, but they'll go all the way through March of the next year.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
that's just because you're dealing with all the different pay centers across the country are paying the central campaign administrator. Central campaign administrator is the one who manages these online systems.
Okay.
And then they aggregate and then start making the individual distributions to your organization.
Thank you for that, Mike. And then my second question is that we've been getting some invitations to CFC events, but these invitations are pretty vague. They tell us what zone they're in, but they don't say whether they're virtual or in person. So it's kind of hard for us as a national org to say, yes, we can get someone there in person, or yes, we can get someone there virtually. Is there any way to know which is which?
Would you mind sending me a copy of one of those? Because
Sure.
as we're
Yeah,
going to go through in the training, it should be pretty specific. So I'd like to see what you got, if that's okay.
Of course, I'll do that. Thanks, Kathy.
And so they are just getting trained on this new system. CFC coordinators are too. And so unless they click the wrong button, but I think if they click the wrong button, the system should go back to them and say, you have to answer this. This is a required field. But we're going to go through that in Kathy's training. So Lester.
And also Brandy has a question in the chat.
How are you, Les? Good to see you.
Is it my turn, Mike?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, thank you. Good to see you again. Likewise, Kathy. You guys have been wonderful, and I'm glad to see you back again. We are also a national charity, Mike, and I just want to clarify how we might be dropping through all of the cracks. We are a category W for public and societal benefit. mandate democracy is socioeconomic uplift, and virtually not all, but most of the flavor of the week categories. Are we, first question, when we send out the material to all of the zones where we're qualified, are we treated as eligible to be selected for the events, even though we're not officially just for education? How is our
Yeah, if you say, if it's an animal week, unless they just want animal charities, if they want 10 charities and they don't say they just want animal charities, then if you signed up, it's 100% randomization, unless I think that might be a question for after Kathy's presentation, because that's what we're going to cover next, is how that new system works and your ability to choose the category. So you got to make sure you chose the right category. Yes, you might think you fit in 5 or 6 different categories. You only get to pick 3. And you know, the category of service, if they ask for just animal, if they ask for just education, that might be what you get. But most often it is, we want to consider all charities that signed up, and then it will randomly go through and you'll have the opportunity to present at that event.
So
if you're
during that,
selected.
I'll wait for the further explanation, but just to be clear now, we get to pick 3 and we won't be invited to any of the others.
No, that's, maybe, let's go through the presentation maybe,
Oh.
but there's 2 scenarios. It's based on those codes, or it's just based on, they want all charities. So there's kind of 2 different scenarios.
Okay, one more
For
brief
event.
question and I won't interrupt again. Are we allowed to load and reload our materials based on the flavor of the week?
No. No,
No.
once you submit the listing, your listing information can't change now. That was, you were able to set your listing information, including your AFR, your logo, your 25-word statement, 256 character statement, all during the listing period. And then once the listing period is closed, you're set for the year.
No, I'm talking about the videos and the photographs and the stories.
You can use the social media stuff that you just went over. I think he's talking.
Yeah, no, you're talking about uploading your videos.
Can it change during the course of the campaign?
You'll have to ask the people at the CFC marketing at Tribal Tech. Ask them. They run that. I don't think you're allowed to. I think they're not looking to have multiple submissions from each CFC charity, depending on what the week is. But you're going to have to ask them. They run that upload system for stories, photos, and videos.
Not each zone, though. We were told to fill out a form for each zone.
Let us go through, let Kathy
Okay.
go through that system, and then you'll see what your options are for that system. Brandy's question was, the flyers promote giving to the CFC. How do you differentiate giving to a particular organization approved to be part of the CFC? That would, Brandy, that would be you providing your CFC number to previous donors or to anybody in your community of giving that is a federal employee. There isn't not an opportunity for you to, except when you present, to differentiate yourself to all the federal participants at an event unless you attend an event. So that's the way. There's no separate outreach for individual charities to reach out to, say, all the federal employees at Offutt Air Force Base. You have to engage federal community, find donors that want to support you, and then from year to year, remind them that they gave to you in the past, and then you can they consider giving to you again in the campaign. Cindy, how do I confirm the Iraq Children Foundation is on the list of CFC events in the DC area? Walking right into Kathy's CFC events. And I think this is what we're going to be able to talk about that everybody wants to see. So go ahead, Kath.
Okay, so I'm just going to briefly go through the steps and the process for this new system. We tried to take out the key points and kind of walk you through it. But step 1 is you need to register. You need to register to participate in the CFC events. And so this is the registration form. Link is at the bottom. I think Mike will click on that so you can see that. But basically, these are the fields. It's very straightforward. Just your name, your charity, your CFC code, email, and then you can pick zones where you have personnel that can attend events. So for instance, if you're a national organization, but you're located in Southern California, you might have an opportunity to have people that could attend a local event there. But you wouldn't want to check someone, something in Alaska if that's not somewhere where you have people that could attend an event. So basically you just fill out this form, and that's the first step in the process. Hopefully most of people have already done that. Most charities have already done that. But we just wanted to go through that with you and show you.
This was sent by the National Marketing OC. You received this, and this is where you sign up for registering for events.
Right. So yeah, you submit that. The second thing we just want to talk about, as with any federal government event, these are some guidelines that are really important that you keep in mind. And the first and foremost, having the proper identification. So if you are invited to an event that's on a government installation or whatever, you need to have proper identification, a government ID. The second one is, if you RSVP to an event, you need to show up. It's important that you show up, because someone else lost a place because you RSVP'd yes. So, and also if you do that multiple times, you can be, flagged as someone who's not, attending when they say they're going to attend. So it's really important that you do that. At the CFC, we're promoting overall giving, not specific to your organization. No photography is allowed unless authorized. You can only attend the events by invitation, so you have to be invited. The time and space allotted. These are all pretty straightforward. We just wanted to go through them with you and see if anyone had any questions. You have to follow all instructions. You're not allowed to sell or promote items or collections or collect names of people at these events. This is a CFC event, and obviously be professional at all times. So
one of the things that people ask us about is that promote overall giving. When you go to a CFC event, whether it's in person or virtual, you kind of hit 3 points. First one is what the need is in your community for your organization. So if it's disaster relief, you're from Florida, it's a pretty strong need right now. If it's food scarcity in Oklahoma City, there is a real need that you want to be able to direct, and that's how you promote your organization. Then you talk about what the dollars federal employees will do to help further your organization's goals. So if it's a food scarcity in Oklahoma City, you'll talk about, through CFC donations, we've, bought a new delivery van, or put in a new freezer, or have a new driver that's extended our delivery radius, by 50 miles. But then you end up by saying, thank you very much for considering our option, whether you give to us or anybody else. We just want you to consider giving to the CFC. So that's promoting overall giving. That's key. We ensure that charities hear that, and we listen to whether charities do that. That's a very important component. So I wanted to make that clear. Amy, do you want to ask your question, and then we'll move on to the next slide?
Hi, Mike and Kathy. Yes, thank you so much. I'm actually an international organization, and so my question is, would some of these invitations be for virtual attendance as well, or really just only in-person events this year?
That's the next slide. So I'm glad you brought that up. Seems to work that way. So Kathy, you want to talk about how they fill out this form and what it looks like?
Right. So the next thing is, I'm going to kind of go over how charities get invited. This is a form that the campaign coordinators submit to a request to the system to invite charities. And basically they're just going to, explain what they want at their event. And they're going to identify, do they want it to be local? Do they want it to be a local event? Is it based on, I think Mike's trying to go to the form. But anyway, so so it's a new charity request, and it's going to say whether it's in a particular zone, where the date of the event, the time zone, the number of attendees that they want to attend the event. And this is where they will identify whether it is an in-person or virtual event. And so the coordinator will, set these up. As Mike said earlier, this year, there's still probably going to be predominantly more virtual than in person, but there will certainly be some in-person events. And so campaign coordinator submits this, says, I want 30 attendees. Then everything is done through a randomizer. So there will be based on either, your location, if it's in a particular zone, or your NTEE code, which is the thing that Mike talked about earlier that's on your application, where you can pick 3 different categories. But so these are basically the 2 ways, and it's all random. The coordinator will put in a request for an event. It will randomly go through, and if it's all charities, it will take national, international, and local charities. If it's a specific cause, it's based on taxonomy codes, and then national, international, and local. So as an international organization, you would be included in, should be included in definitely in the first scenario, and depending on what your taxonomy codes are, would also be in the other one. Then you will get I think the next screen goes on to what you will receive once they've sent out, and this is the invitation that you will receive with the event details. That should clearly indicate on the bottom whether it's virtual or in person.
And then Kath, I just wanted to point out on that, when they register, it's a required field. So virtual or in person is required. So they can't go further. They can't place an event request form unless see its asterisk is here. So you don't have to answer whether you want on the event mobile app, but if it's virtual or in person is required. So that's why Kathy asked for the organization that said that they got some of these invitations, but it didn't say whether it was virtual or in person. Please send that to us, because our understanding is that all these events will look like and have this invitation that comes out that says midway through, if I highlight the whole thing, but it says type of event, agency fair, and virtual platform, if any, is MS Teams.
Oh, also, so that was me. And I do want to say, yes, I looked again and they have that information. It's just a little below in that where all the bullets are. So sorry about that causing any confusion.
No,
but
Lauren, thank you for clearing it up for us.
yeah, of course.
I think our training, that means our training's working.
Yes,
so
definitely.
I think that's
So
exactly what we want to be doing here.
Thank you.
I guess the takeaway is make sure you review the event details, because that's where it'll tell you all those specifics. And the other really important thing about this email invitation is that you keep it, because we'll talk about this in a minute. It's an important, you must have this invitation to respond if there's a change in your RSVP or something like that. So very important, when you get it, keep it in case you need to use it in the future. And then back one, Mike, I think.
Yep.
And then you will be able to RSVP once you've reviewed the details and see if you can participate. You need to respond within 72 hours. This form is basically only for the new RSVP. That's why we circled that. If you click on the change RSVP, you'll basically be directed to a screen that says respond to your original invite or your confirmation email for any changes. So although it shows on this web form, you really cannot change your RSVP from this web form. It's basically just a new RSVP. And again, the important thing to remember is that you need to respond within 72 hours. And so after you RSVP, you'll either receive a confirmation email, as we were talking about, that has all of those details, or you could receive a full or waitlist email. And that just, says they've received your RSVP. However, the event was full prior to receiving your RSVP. So it's important to get those in so you can participate. Then the final thing is you'll get a confirmation reminder email 3 days prior to the event with all the same information. That's the second email that you should keep if there are any issues, both the original one and this confirmation email. Cancellations or changes to the RSVP. As we said earlier, any changes, if the agency cancels an event, all confirmed and waitlisted charities will receive an email notification that the event was canceled. In the event that you need to change your RSVP, because we know things come up, but as we said earlier, it's really important that if you RSVP yes, that you can hopefully attend. But you would need to reply to the invitation or the confirmation email. And very important, do not change the subject line. Just leave it. That's the way the system is relying on that original information to track that. So important thing to note as you're going through this, if you have to change your RSVP. And this is what we were talking about. If you do click on the change RSVP, this is basically what you'll see. You'll see this direction to go back to the original invite or confirmation email to respond if you have an issue with or need to change your RSVP. I think that's it. Is that it,
So
Mike?
Cindy had a question. In the past, there have been ground rules for us approaching the agencies, departments where employees are likely to be most interested in our cause. Any change in that? No, Cindy, that is forbidden. You are not, if you're the American River Foundation and you want to go to, you think people from Fish and Wildlife might be interested in you, absolutely forbidden for charities to solicit federal employees or approach them outside of the CFC. In fact, it's one of the #1 ways for charities to be excluded from the campaign, put on probation. Workplace campaigns are designed specifically to keep charities at arm's length. If not, there'd be a year-round process of charities interfering with the productivity of workers by soliciting them at work. The federal community has decided to have once a year annual opportunity for charities to engage with federal employees, and that is the CFC, but all engagement must go through the CFC. If somebody's told you that differently in the past, they're incorrect. Soliciting federal employees at any point directly while they're at work is a basis for being banned from the CFC, and it's a certification that charities must agree to, that they won't do as part of the application process. We're getting close to the top of the hour, so I went through some of the success stories. I just want to make sure, going back to your CFC Charities account, there will be 4 emails coming out, newsletters coming out from the National Marketing OC. One came out in September, there'll be one in October, one in November, one in December. Those emails will give the participating charities heads up on what's happening in the campaign that year, reminders about important ideas or important opportunities for you in the campaign. And so make sure that you go into your account at CFC Charities, we talked about that a little bit, at opm.gov, and update those email addresses and make sure they're all correct. You'll receive emails from me and Kathy, but if you update your email with us, that's not updating your email in the official OPM database. So you want to make sure that those emails are up to date. Promoting your involvement, we talked about printing your CFC code. We talked about incorporating, being the face of change. That all makes sense. Inviting donors to give. Everybody should go get your donor names from the last 5 years. Thank those donors, remind them that you're in the campaign if you have been over the past 5 years, and let them know the campaign is up and running. And now is the time to consider giving to you again through the CFC, using the social media content that is provided on that toolkit, campaign worker toolkit. It's a great idea. You don't have to come up with anything. You don't have to come up with talking points. You don't have to come up with content. You don't have to come up with images. It's all available to you. So we want you to, it's important, we want you to connect with your local website. So find your local website, click the Facebook button, and make sure that you connect with us You can share stories there. You can use that hashtag #GiveCFC, promote your CFC number there. And much of what gets posted there is shared among agencies, because we also have federal agencies that we connect with. And so the information and the social media marketing is very strong in the campaign. So remember to go on and connect with us through Facebook. So I think I got us right to the top of the hour. Is there a
Amy,
question, Kath?
Amy had a question, a kind of follow up on Cindy's question. So it says, suppose one of us has a relative who works for the government. What are the guidelines for that employee to discuss our charity with fellow employees?
So there are opportunities for federal employees to get up and tell their story. And that happens at various times. It can be an official employee monthly meeting where they set aside 5 or 10 minutes. The campaign coordinator who runs the campaign says, boss, ma'am, could I have 5 minutes to 10 minutes to talk about CFC? And then during that portion of the monthly call for the EPA, they open up their Zoom meeting, and or if it's face-to-face, they say, does anybody else have a CFC story? And they might talk about the agency that they support. Generally, what the CFC does is talk about causes. I don't know that there's a charity police that's going to go out there, and if your family member has that opportunity to go and talk about your agency and the good work it does, absolutely, they should take advantage of it. So that's not direct solicitation of employees at work. That's the difference. Direct solicitation is I go and I found a list of, like I said, Fish and Wildlife employees' email addresses. I'm the American River Association. I want to send emails to them. That's direct solicitation of federal employees at work. Having federal employees that give to you. Here's another thing. When they release their donor names, they're releasing their personal email. Part of your communication to them can be, hey, if you have an opportunity to talk about a cause, the charity that you support, please remember us at those opportunities at work, because they can talk about what their causes are. They can absolutely talk about what their causes are at work, but that's not you soliciting federal employees at work. That's you talking to your federal donors who have released this personal information to you and saying, hey, the campaign started. Now is the time, if you have an opportunity to talk about your cause at work, please consider, reminding your colleagues the good work that we do. Is there another question, Kath? So Suzanne says, so if I'm understanding
I was talking, but you
correctly,
couldn't hear me.
should only be filled out so you can attend in person, not virtually. No, you can attend virtually. Just know that if there are events in person, it's going to be clear that it's in person, and you need to be clear on what that invitation says so you can respond. I think it's as a national organization, the idea would be, if I have people in that area, then you will want to definitely attend all those events. If you don't have people in that area and you have availability, sure, virtual events are there. You just don't have the opportunity as a national organization to say, I only want to receive virtual invites. So you're going to receive a lot of invites. If you say I'm available, I'm a national organization, and you click all 36 buttons, you're going to receive a lot of invites you're going to have to read through. The first day, I think there was 55, and I bet there's going to be days where there's 100 over the next 30 days, invites that are requested through the 36 zones. And if you are included in that and you said you can attend, you're going to have to respond to or consider responding to numerous CFC invitations. Because if you go back to that site, you saw you had to put down the name and the address, email address for the person that's going to respond to all the questions from that individual zone.
I think that's
So,
no more questions.
Um,
Amy still has her
Amy-
hand up, but I think we've answered her question.
Amy, thank you.
Sorry
Lower
about
your
that.
hand.
Thank you
Oh,
for
that's okay.
answering my question.
No, that's okay.
That's all right.
So I'm gonna, end or start closing up the meeting, just going back to where I started, where this slide deck started, which is thanking you for what you do, for partnering with us in the CFC, and for your support of the campaign and the programs that you provide, the services that you provide, the inspiration you provide to both the campaign organizers, the volunteers, and the donors, is what makes the CFC what it is. I've been doing this for 32 years. Working with charities has been basically my career. And I love every minute. I love working with charities. So don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions. I know it can be complicated. I know sometimes it's isn't designed specifically the way you would design it. I get that. Maybe I can work through some of those frustrations with you, but I think there's a lot of opportunities for you to market yourself in the campaign, going to events, uploading videos, and supporting the campaign through your social media. I'm happy to talk about that with you anytime.
Brandy had one more clarification. Is there info in print about not soliciting federal employees? I'm wondering about this in relation to Giving Tuesday. You indicated
Brandy,
it
I'll
was part of the
find you
application.
chapter and verse. I absolutely will find you chapter and verse where you cannot solicit. I would go back to your application, but I can find the regs and send it to you. Because again, you're allowed to solicit federal employees that gave to you last year and released their personal email. No problem with that. No problem at all. You're allowed to advertise in the Federal Times. Absolutely. Paid advertising, do it all you want. What I'm talking about specifically is sourcing a list from a federal agency where you send an email to a federal employee at work and solicit them at work. That's what you can't do. So is that what you're talking about when it comes to what you're thinking about for
Right,
Giving
that's
Tuesday?
helpful. That's helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely welcome to advertise. CFC encourages the advertising of giving through the CFC and for federal agencies. Heck, you go to DC and you take the Metro this month, there won't be anything in the Metro but CFC ads from charities that are in the combined federal campaign. So advertising, promoting yourself, all those things are absolutely allowed. What you can't do is solicit federal employees at work. I know a lot of organizations that solicited in handout things that we used to hand out at the top of the, and this isn't me, this is in my prior life. I think Carrie just jumped off, but my colleague Carrie Hart was on here. And we used to hand out stuff at the top of the DC Metro stations. You hand it out to federal employees. You had to stand outside the federal office. You couldn't stand inside the federal office building. So I want to be clear, that's what you're doing. So that's the line that you cannot cross at work.
Thank you. I would like more information on that line if you've got it in print, just so I can share it.
Sure, I will.
Thank you.
And then Lester wanted, I have her email. Lester wanted to know, his comment was, so we can upload videos to each zone separately and how often?
I don't think there's a separate zone option unless you do it once and then each zone sources the same library of information.
But we can confirm that and get back to you if you want, Mike. So Cindy
So we
said,
can stand outside a Metro shop or an agency and provide a handout for the CFC. Absolutely. Yes, you can do that. Yes, I've done it before. You want that story? Okay. So it was 1993 or 4 in San Francisco in front of the federal building. We put together this advertisement for all the members of our federation. So I had a Pete's Coffee and I was sitting there handing out flyers, which had advertisements for our charities promoting the campaign. Finished handing out all my advertisements, talked to the guard, said, hey, can I go in and use the restroom? He said, sure. Walked inside the federal building. There's a trash receptacle right there. And a lot of what I handed out was dumped right in the trash receptacle. So I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying my experience is that's a difficult way to get federal employees' attention. What we've found is developing a relationship with them, like all your donors, is a better way. So maybe going to an event, using again the donor names that you've received in the past, and promoting your organization on social media and promoting yourself to federal employees that way might be a better bang for the buck. But yes, you absolutely can do that. And I hope that's clear. That's outside the federal building in San Francisco, all fine. Inside the federal building in San Francisco or in their email box, not fine.
Amy, I
Did you
can
s-
send you the same thing we sent Brandy once Mike provide the information on soliciting federal employees.
At work.
Yeah, I work. I think that's it.
So again, thank you all very much for joining us, and we look forward to working with you this year to have a successful campaign. Many of you we've been working with for the last few years. You'll be hearing from Kathy and I throughout the campaign, and then also we'll be getting everybody ready for the 2023 application process. That'll start in December, but between now and then, we plan to have an excellent campaign. I run 21 of the 36. Me and my team run that. So we'll see you at some of the campaign events on the campaign trail over the next 60 to 90 days.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.